No one can join NATO while a war is going on, where a NATO nation is being attacked, because that guarantees that we're in a war, and we're in a third world war. So that it's not about whether or not they should or shouldn't join. It's about when they can join, and they will join NATO. The issue of whether or not this is going to keep Putin from continuing to fight, the answer is Putin's already lost the war.
That was President Biden yesterday, claiming that Russia's Vladimir Putin has already lost the war in Ukraine. After all of this death and destruction, Biden also suggesting that Ukraine will join NATO once the war is over. President Biden also authorizing military leaders to deploy 3,000 reserve troops to Europe as part of Operation Atlantic Resolve. Joining me right now is Michigan Congressman John James. He's a member of the House Foreign Affairs, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committees. He is also an Iraq war veteran himself. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. Give us your reaction to what you just heard from our president.
Yeah, a president declaring something doesn't necessarily make it true. It was true when George Bush landed on an aircraft carrier, declared mission accomplished, and we were a global war on terror in Afghanistan for 20 years. And now with Joe Biden going over to Europe and saying that Putin's already lost the war, that's not the case just because he says it's true. He's already botched one war, and he's about to botch this one. Right now, I am gravely concerned about the fact that this administration, due to its terrible policies, are placing America at risk. We have strategic petroleum reserves that are already 30% lower than they were last year. We have reservists being potentially activated after we already have 100,000 American troops already on the continent, and we mobilized 20,000 just last year. I'm very concerned that without a stated mission, with a clear end state, and without the president making a better case to the American people for why it is so important to make sure that growing spheres of communist influence do not permeate into Europe, I fear that he's going to lose the support of the American people and people in my district. We must make sure America is strong, and Joe Biden is making us weaker.
Well, it's very discouraging what's going on. I mean, we're watching this in real time. Even President Trump, when I spoke with him last night, talked about the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan and how that was a trigger for our adversaries. They saw the way we tried to get out of there so fast, leaving soldiers behind, and they saw that as a trigger to ramp up their aggression. And that's exactly what we've seen from Russia as well as from China.
Yeah, under Joe Biden administration, it's open season on America. It's open season on Americans because of that abominable retreat that the world saw in Afghanistan, where on the very last days we lost 13 brave Marines serving their nation. It's open season on America when you see our wide open borders in the south, and being from Michigan, 10th Congressional District, adjacent to a northern border where fentanyl continues to pour in. It's open season on America where our allies continue to not pay their fair share of their defense budget spending, and American taxpayers are expected to carry the load on their own. And now the Biden administration is calling up reservists because 100,000 troops already on the continent, enough to fill the big house in Ann Arbor, is not enough to accomplish this mission. Simply saying you're going to hold Russia accountable and stand by Ukraine is not enough. We need a clearly articulated mission to make sure that we can protect our interests at home and abroad. We must do both, and our homeland defenses cannot be put on the back burner. Defending America first must be our #1 priority.
Well, I mean, look, you're talking about policy decisions that were misguided, but there's also the president's really capacity. I mean, the president's overseas trip was filled with some bizarre moments and gaffes. Watch this.
How soon after the war would you like to join NATO?
Down, 20 minutes.
Here we go. Thank you so much. All right, that's it. Thank you so much, you guys. That's it.
Hearing this answer that no one can guarantee a future, are you worried that the political instability in the U.S. will cause issues in the alliance in the future?
I didn't say we didn't guarantee it. We couldn't guarantee the future. You can't tell me whether you're going to be able to go home tonight. The daughter of Ireland, you can tell that's a Freudian slip. I'm thinking of home. The daughter of Iceland.
I mean, this is on the global stage, Congressman. What are our adversaries seeing with all of these gaffes?
Yeah, that's not funny. That's not a gaffe. That's scary. That's what our enemies see. They see our vice president making word salads, Chef Harris going out there and botching even the most simple lines. You see Joe Biden going out on the world stage and barely able to hold himself up, know where he's going. And apparently the British monarch has to escort him in and out of rooms. This is what people see about America. I miss the days when America was feared by their enemies and respected by their allies. We need to have people in office leading this country that Americans can look up to and that our enemies know that they're on notice.
Yeah, I mean, Congressman, I wonder if some of this is one of the reasons that unions are also turning or skeptical of Joe Biden. We know that the United Auto Workers have yet to support Biden's re-election campaign, largely because of his green agenda. He's pushing electric vehicles. I want to get your take on what's going on in Michigan and whether or not he's alienating key unions to the extent that they won't support him in 2024.
Yeah, this wrong-headed push toward an all-EV future with no alternatives and no choice for the American future. It's comply or die with this administration, and they are willing to crush. They're willing to crush the automotive industry. And we have hard-working automotive workers in the #1 manufacturing district, the 10th congressional district in Michigan, and we're not buying it. We're not buying that this administration is willing to outsource our jobs and our future to other countries. We're not buying it that this administration, through their terrible policies, are willing to allow the middle classes in China to be built on the backs of ours. Michigan, my district specifically, is the birthplace of the middle class, and we will protect it. In all of the above energy future, we need to have all choice for the American people. I have a hybrid myself, and like President Trump said, if you want an electric vehicle, get an electric vehicle. But you will not force the American people from Washington, D.C. to do something that they are not ready for, that's too expensive for people who are struggling to make ends meet already. For technology that's not prepared, we need to make sure we give Americans choices, both environmentally sound and economically sound. This administration's totally detached, and they do not care about American auto workers.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because you have to wonder what is being made in China and what is going to be made by unions in America with these electric vehicles, right? I mean, so many of the components for the EVs are made in China. Why does this president constantly kowtow to communist China?
You know, some have said in my district they believe the president's compromised. Now, I don't know anything about that, but I will tell you that we're depending on an EV supply chain that's dependent on cobalt. And right now, China, where we source most of our cobalt, depends on a lot of slave labor. China owns 15 of the 19 mines, and I actually put forward legislation to make sure that Americans can maintain their energy independence, but also have presence and established presence in Africa so China doesn't run circles around us. Joe Biden is making us more dependent on China. We need to be more dependent on ourselves.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the president made it slip the other day in a CNN interview that the country is low on ammunition. Why would he tell the world the U.S. is low on ammunition? National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby defended the administration's decision to send cluster rounds to Ukraine. Watch this.
To make sure that we keep the flow going so that their howitzers don't fall silent, so that they can continue to defend themselves as we work, and we are right now, and we think over the next months work to get the production rate up of unitary artillery shells to a level where we can resupply them at a faster pace than we are right now. In coming months, you'll see us be able to go back to the supply of unitary artillery shells rather than these cluster munitions.
So we got to get our supplies up to send them to Ukraine. Kirby said once we get our munition levels up, we won't need to send clusters. Congressman, your thoughts on all of this weaponry going to Ukraine and the state of our military and munitions today?
Well, telegraphing our past, projecting weakness is what this administration is doing, and it's terrible. It's a threat to the American people. Right now, what they're projecting is 10 to 15 years to backfill what we've already sent. And in this administration, you can't build airplanes to make sure that Selfridge keeps a fighter mission fast enough. And right now, they're talking about sending fighter planes and advanced munitions to Ukraine when we don't have enough to protect ourselves in the homeland. What are they thinking? You know, I don't think they are thinking. I don't think they have enough people around Joe Biden who've actually been to war and who actually understand the consequences of their terrible, wrong-headed decisions to deplete America's reserves and our capacity to be able to defend ourselves. Our supply chains are still hurting, and we need to make sure that we get support from my bill that's actually moving forward in a study for how we can make our supply chain stronger. The 10th Congressional District is the number one manufacturing district in the entire nation. And making sure that we focus more on building things here in America, maintaining peace through our economic manufacturing strength, making sure that we're healthy to move forward is what we need to be focused on, not necessarily mortgaging our future for Joe Biden to look good on a world stage.
Yeah, all right. We'll be watching all of that, Congressman. Thanks very much for being here this morning. Good to see you, John James, this morning in D.C. Stay with us. We'll be right back.